Rick Harrison's shocking reaction to life sentence leaves Courtroom in utter silence. "I wish I k***led more," he snarled, grinning. Then everything went dark. It wasn't supposed to end like this. Not for Rick Harrison. Not for the star of a reality TV juggernaut watched by millions around the globe. Not for the face of Pawn Stars, a man once seen haggling over vintage Rolexes and Civil War muskets with an everyman charm that made him feel like your slightly grumpy, bearded uncle. But life, especially the kind that spirals behind closed doors and under lock and key, has a dark sense of irony. And on that fateful day inside a packed federal courtroom, what began as just another sentencing hearing erupted into a chilling, surreal scene that could have been pulled from the depths of a horror script. Only this time, the horror was real. The hook heard, round the world. Let's rewind for just a moment. Reporters, spectators, and families of victims had gathered in the Nevada courthouse to witness the culmination of one of the most bizarre criminal cases in recent memory. Rick Harrison was facing sentencing for a labyrinth of charges: tax evasion, money laundering, trafficking stolen artifacts, and then the darker ones. The ones sealed in boxes and file folders stamped classified. It was already surreal, but no one expected what would come next. As the judge's gavel struck, confirming Harrison's sentence, life without parole, he leaned into the microphone, his eyes scanning the gallery. And then, in a tone colder than the courtroom's marble floors, he said it. "I wish I killed more." Gasps exploded like fireworks in the stunned silence. A reporter dropped her pen. A woman in the back row let out a guttural sob. One bailiff reportedly took a full step back, his hand inching toward his belt. And just like that, the lights flickered. Then everything went dark. The man behind the pawn counter. To understand how we got here, we have to peel back the layers of Rick Harrison's carefully crafted public persona. To fans, Rick was the straight-shooting, no-nonsense patriarch of the world-famous gold and silver pawn shop in Las Vegas. For over a decade, viewers tuned in to watch Rick, his late father, the old man, his son Corey, and their friend Shumli debate over the authenticity and price of odd collectibles. It was quirky, fun, and at times educational. But it turns out, that pawn counter might have been the greatest smokescreen reality television ever aired. Investigators now believe that while Rick was smiling for the cameras, behind the scenes he was orchestrating something far more sinister, something that would make a stolen pirate coin look like child's play. A house of horrors in the desert. When the FBI raided Harrison's lavish Las Vegas mansion, they weren't looking for rare baseball cards. What they found was the stuff of nightmares. Surveillance cameras, dozens of them, were hidden behind picture frames, inside smoke detectors, and even tucked into vintage lamps. At first, agents believed they were for security purposes. That is, until they reviewed the footage. What they saw, according to leaked reports, turned hardened agents pale. Rooms filled with human remains, arranged like a twisted museum. Some dressed in era-appropriate costumes. Others propped up in poses that mirrored famous celebrity red carpet photos. Forensic experts believe Harrison was preserving these bodies to look like specific celebrities. Not with makeup or costume, but with surgical precision, chemical preservation, and a bizarre, methodical obsession with mimicry. And here's where things get even darker. Was Rick Harrison simply collecting these bodies, or was he creating them? A collector of legacy, or something far worse? Imagine this, a Marilyn Monroe doppelganger seated at a grand piano. A replica of James Dean leaning against a vintage motorcycle. A frighteningly lifelike Elvis lounging beside a pool table, next to what appeared to be preserved Graceland memorabilia. But these weren't wax figures. They were bodies. Some believe Rick Harrison had become obsessed with the idea of owning legacy. That by recreating the icons of yesteryear in death, he could control their image, their story, their soul. Others think the truth may be even more unsettling. That Rick wasn't just mimicking the famous dead, but may have been seeking out people who resembled celebrities in life, and ensuring they never walked away. Could a reality TV star have really descended into this level of madness? Let's dig deeper. The breaking point, a family in denial. Even as details of the FBI's finding surfaced, those closest to Rick struggled to believe it. Corey Harrison, Rick's son, remained mostly silent for weeks, only breaking his silence to say, "I don't recognize that man." Chumlee, a longtime friend and co-star, was reportedly so disturbed by the footage shown to him by investigators that he left the interview room and vomited in the hallway. Rick's ex-wives have also come forward, offering cryptic insights about his collection room, which was always locked. One described hearing muffled crying late at night, but was told it was just the TV. Was the truth always lurking just beneath the surface, hiding in plain sight? Or did fame, fortune, and a taste for control slowly twist Rick Harrison into something unrecognizable, even to those who loved him? What lies beneath? The vault room revelation. When agents finally cracked the security vault at the back of Rick Harrison's mansion, a room protected by biometric locks and a timed release mechanism, they were expecting to find cash, gold bars, maybe even rare artifacts from Harrison's pawn empire. Instead, what they discovered was something no one could have anticipated, a chilling archive of D***H. Inside the vault were rows of drawers, labeled alphabetically. Each drawer contained meticulously documented remains, complete with handwritten notes, photographs, and even sketches. The labeling was eerily clinical. For instance, JD accompanied a side-by-side image of James Dean and a preserved corpse in a leather jacket. M featured a blonde woman eerily posed to mirror Marilyn Monroe's infamous skirt-blowing moment. But it wasn't just the bodies that horrified investigators. It was the disturbing level of organization. Rick had left notes about each subject, from hair texture to speech patterns to rumored last meals. He had even written imagined diary entries, as if trying to breathe life back into the D***D. This wasn't hoarding. This was obsession taken to an unthinkable level. And yet, no one saw it coming. Or did they? The neighbors speak up, too late. In the days following Rick Harrison's outburst in court, several of his Las Vegas neighbors began speaking to the media. And what they revealed paints a disturbing portrait of a man who may have been hiding in plain sight. One neighbor recalled how Rick had dozens of mannequins delivered to his home over a span of 6 months. "I just thought he was redecorating," she said. Another remembered hearing strange music, classical piano, blaring at odd hours of the night. It was always the same piece. Over and over. Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. More than one neighbor said they saw people go into the house who never came out. Sometimes delivery guys. Other times, women with suitcases. "I figured it was just girlfriends or assistants. But thinking back, yeah, it was weird." There were even reports of a putrid, chemical smell wafting through the neighborhood, but the local HOA chalked it up to pool maintenance or pest control. Looking back, the signs were there. But who would have thought to connect them to one of television's most familiar faces? Celebrity culture turned toxic. Rick Harrison's case has opened up a broader conversation, one that's far more uncomfortable and cuts much deeper than a typical celebrity scandal. It begs a haunting question: what happens when obsession with fame becomes pathological? Harrison didn't just admire celebrities. He tried to possess them, own them, immortalize them through his grotesque collection. Experts now describe his condition as a rare, severe form of delusional disorder with elements of necrophilia and obsessive-compulsive tendencies rooted in fame fixation. Psychiatrist Dr. Emily Cartwright explained, Rick Harrison likely equated value with permanence. He made a living pricing things, assigning worth to objects. But celebrities? Their worth is eternal. He wanted to bottle that forever. And with access, influence, and an empire built on deals and negotiations, Rick was uniquely equipped to build his horrifying museum of immortality. This was no ordinary man who broke. This was a man who believed he was curating a legacy, one body at a time. The final show, Rick's last words, and the silent aftermath. The moment Rick said, "I wish I killed more," wasn't just a throwaway shock line. It was the final scene in a performance he'd been rehearsing in secret for years. His smirk, his delivery, the timing, it was like a twisted punchline to the world's darkest joke. And then, As the lights dimmed and the emergency generators kicked in, Rick stood motionless in the brief blackout, like a wax statue himself. When the lights returned, he calmly turned to the officers and extended his hands. No resistance. No further words. Just that eerie smile still clinging to his face. The judge recessed immediately. No one could speak. No one could move. Even reporters struggled to file their updates in real time, shaken by what they had just witnessed. As the courtroom emptied, a hollow silence lingered, one that no amount of camera clicks or flashing lights could break. The courtroom wasn't just witnessing the end of Rick Harrison's freedom. It was witnessing the exposure of a deeply rooted sickness, one that had quietly festered behind fame, beneath reality TV glitz, and inside a Las Vegas mansion where truth had long been stranger than fiction. Lessons from the pawn counter. So what do we take away from all this? It's easy to look at Rick Harrison now and see only the monster. But the more haunting truth is this. Monsters rarely start out that way. They're built, layer by layer, through neglect, obsession, unchecked power, and unaddressed darkness. In Rick's case, that darkness grew under the glow of studio lights. Fed by fame, shielded by wealth, and ignored by a culture that rewards notoriety above integrity. Maybe it's time we stop treating reality stars like royalty. Maybe we stop confusing television personas with real people. And maybe, just maybe, we start listening when something feels off. Because somewhere out there, behind another charming smile and a clever catchphrase, another secret might already be growing. Don't wait until the next gavel drops. Closing call. What now? Now that Rick Harrison's double life has been exposed, authorities are combing through over 15 terabytes of digital evidence. Forensic anthropologists, cybercrime experts, and even Hollywood historians have been brought in to identify the bodies and trace the items in Rick's bizarre collection. There are rumors of underground buyers, whispers of accomplices, and theories swirling about how long this operation had been going on, and whether he had help. One thing is certain, we haven't heard the last of this story. The aftermath. Hollywood reacts in disbelief. As news of Rick Harrison's chilling courtroom outburst and grotesque collection spread like wildfire,